Hey, what's up out there, YouTube? It's Dave Duford, Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com, and I'm coming to you today with my top 5 free final expense lead generation tactics that actually work in the real world. So let's get started with the training. So the reason I'm putting this video together is most likely you're watching it because you want to know how to generate leads without having to shell out hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Now, I'm going to propose a caveat to that in just a minute, but the reason I'm putting this video together is for you because there are tactics that do work to generate final expense leads on a free basis without investing a lot of money. I've tried all of these at one point or have personally experienced it with agents, and so I can definitely assure you that all these particular tactics and methods do work, and we're going to go into detail about how they all work, with the end goal of trying to help you out to decide on what you want to implement as a free final expense lead generation strategy. So let me cover my caveat here, ladies and gentlemen, and it is this. Nothing takes the seat of a direct mail final expense lead campaign. So as much as I can say that these tactics can possibly work, there is a lot of difficulty at times with some of these, not all of them, but with some of these tactics to generate free leads. Most of the top producers in final expense selling are doing so using a direct mail lead system. Doing so takes off the enormous burden of generating leads on a consistent basis, on a cold calling basis, which does discourage a lot of people in the long term because of burnout. So I advise everybody that I work with to start on a direct mail campaign completely. However, there is room for the agent who has more willpower than bank account to come up with some interesting solutions to generate business without necessarily having the disposable capital on hand in order to get started. So I look at free lead generation and final expense as a way to get the ball rolling to ultimately get to the point of selling final expense on a paid lead basis using most likely direct mail leads. So let's get started. So the first one, this is my favorite approach. I'm just going to start with my favorite. These aren't necessarily in any order, but I really like seminar marketing. This is actually a strategy that I teach my agents to use to go out there as a part of my mentorship program across the country in my agency. And the strategy in a nutshell is this. You go into senior facilities where they're seniors, and you give a short talk about an educational talk about the ideas of life insurance or the costs of funerals. The talk itself will never go any longer than 10 or 15 minutes, but the goal is to generate a large influx of leads at a very minimal cost. Now, this isn't technically free. You probably need to go buy some stuff like food or a gift card to give away to kind of entice people to come in. But for no more than 20 or 30 bucks, it's close enough to being free relative to the multi-hundreds of dollars of other ones that are out there. This particular approach works very well, and it will generate a lot of leads and interest. I have several agents across the country who follow this method. I have one in particular who probably writes a consistent $10,000 a month in production from it. Like I said, it works very well. It's something you should definitely consider if you don't have the capital to start. I do have a program that I sell. Whether or not you join my program, you can go to my website at feagentmentor.com and then look under the lead training programs. I think that's where it is. Or you can just join my program and get it for free. The second program is referrals generation. Now, this requires, of course, you to actually have sold something. So referral generation, while free, it definitely is free, and it's very powerful, very effective leads. The other aspect you have to consider as well is that you have to generate business, obviously, before that. So referral generation goes hand in hand with one of these other methods I'm working on. So the strategy would be to employ one of these cold calling or free lead generation programs, seminar marketing, and some of the others we'll get into. And then as you make the sales, really implement the referral generation strategy to continue the chain of getting new people to talk to. So I did a video with an agent, not an agent, but a sales trainer named Claude Whitaker. It's one of my most watched videos on referral generation strategies that actually work. And he is the master of generating referrals. His advice to agents is to actually take the script of referral and implement it throughout the entirety of the presentation. So what he says is that in the beginning of the sales call, what you're going to do is tell them how everybody basically refers, and that very little of what you do is on a cold call basis. And that what most people do and prefer is to work with somebody who refers. And this is just the way I do business, and it is completely normal for me, for everybody that buys from me, to refer business to me. The concept is you're planting the seed for them to think about as the presentation goes through of other people to refer, because it's also the standard in which you do business. And then by the end, you go into a descriptive detail of how to identify the best types of referrals, the best buyers, not just a name per se, but what Claude teaches is really good, is a script on how to generate an ideal buyer, somebody who is highly likely to purchase. And I won't go into any more detail of it, but there's 2 ways you can find out more. Go to the hour-long interview I did with him on referral generation strategies. And then also you could purchase his book. I believe it is the prospecting book. An excellent resource. It's $3 for a Kindle book. And it goes into very good detail about this. So if you implement this strategy of referral generation in conjunction with your cold calling or your other free generation strategies to initially get these appointments, you'll find you can begin to get more business through this process. In fact, Claude even says that, after, I want to say 100 cold calls, he doesn't need to cold call anymore, because that's how good this particular strategy works with generating high quality leads. Okay, so free method for final expense leads number 3 is what I would call a specific phone appointment setting strategy. So you want to use an approach in which utilizes something in the market that's normal, something in the market that is being used on a regular basis. So we know in final expense, like I said earlier, that most of these prospects, most of what we mail to, are prospects who receive a direct mail lead card. That's our main prospecting source. Well, I can assure you that everybody over 50, certainly over 60, has received one of these direct mail lead pieces. They're very generic. They probably get 1 or 2 a week in many markets. And it's very easy to just utilize those particular occurrences as a reason to call. So here's how the actual script would work in concept. Is that you call up and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, this is David Duford. I'm calling from Mutual of Omaha, or I'm an agent with Mutual of Omaha, whatever company you want to use is fine. I'm calling because you probably got one of those cards in the mail over the last month talking about the new state-regulated final expense programs for seniors your age. And I'm calling because my job is to follow up with people who receive these cards, and I wanted to see if you had 5 minutes for me to show you how this works. Would 2 o'clock or 10 work better? So same script, but what we're doing is we're replacing, hey, you filled out this card and sent it back to me. We're replacing that with, hey, we sent you a card, you probably received it, it talked about whatever the card you states, doesn't really matter. Identify what it's about, the state-regulated life insurance programs available in your county, and I'm calling because my job is to follow up with you to see if I can deliver the information to you. It's virtually the same script, trying to set for an appointment, except you don't have to buy the leads. But what you're leveraging is the fact that so many of these cards go out there constantly, and most of these people never reply, but they're familiar with it. They know what these cards are, and they're kind of curious, but not so much to send it in. So you're just taking a little thing that they're familiar with and making a leverage out of it. So it's a way to get a more effective cold call in than just starting from the basis of, with nothing, because you don't really have much with a cold list. So this kind of just gives you just that much bit more of a leverage. Okay, so point number 4 here, or final expense free lead number 4 strategy, is working your circle of influence. A lot of people don't like this approach. I do add it because it actually does work very well. And especially so if you're in a position where you cannot financially afford to start with leads to begin with. If you can't put a couple $1,000s in leads, this is a really good approach to start with. So let me try to persuade you as to why this is a good idea. So I like working circle of influence. I don't push my agents to do this or anything like that. I just leave it out there for something to consider. So one reason that a lot of organizations use a circle of influence concept, or they use a Project 100, is that just basically people buy from people they already know, like, and trust. And you can rest assured that there is going to be people who are within your immediate circle, whether it's associates at work or family members, older, younger, that don't have adequate life insurance. And you're in a position where you can actually do a good job by helping them. Now, a lot of people immediately are revolted by the idea of trying to hustle their friends and family members. But that's an understandable perspective, especially when people with Mary Kay and a lot of the multi-level marketing schemes do this stuff. But you have to have a mindset change on this. If you really believe in life insurance and the power of what it can do to affect the lives around the insured person upon their passing, then it doesn't cause you any harm, or them either, to just simply ask for a few minutes to show them what you're doing and to see if they have any interest in possibly looking at something. So the mindset isn't you're going to go in and harass them into buying something. No. The mindset is you're just there to show them what you're doing, just to see if they may be interested in anything that you have to offer. And then if a purchase decision comes from that, great. If it doesn't, then no one is the wiser. Nobody's harmed by that meeting. And you've got to practice your presentation. You got to answer some questions from these people, and you got to a position where you get a little bit of at-bat time. And then the other thing you can do, of course, is build on referrals. A lot of good branch offices, especially this is called a Project 100 or Project 200. A lot of the good branch offices will train this method, because what they want you to do also is to ask your friends and family and associates for referrals. So again, that's just as good, because you get to explain what you're doing, and then using their referral tactics, or what I just taught a second ago, you get to go in and see if you can actually develop referrals from them, because maybe they don't need it but know somebody who's mentioned they do. And from there you begin to work an insurance business that isn't so focused on straight cold calling, which a lot of people find really tough. So point number 5, final way to do final expense lead generation is straight door-to-door canvassing. So I've never done this per se out of this entire list. However, I have known agents who have successfully done it. And there's 2 different ways to do it. You can just go down the street and knock on doors, and just see what happens. You may write more term insurance. You may write younger and older. But the thing is that method works great. Again, most people just don't have enough life insurance. If you look at the statistics, most people think they should own more. And if your approach in your mind is, hey, I'm just here to show you what this is and see if I can help you out, you'll likely get appointments. I went on an appointment with a gentleman named Lewis who lives in East Tennessee, and I just did a day with him, just curious to see how cold calling was. It was very low-key. I think one person slammed the door, no big deal. But he got two or three appointments out of it, and he sold like 2 policies. And I mean, these people were great, and it's unlikely that they'll respond to a direct mailer, so it's very likely that they'll be better clients because they're not inundated and of the mentality that responders to direct mail are, so they're going to be more inclined to keep what they have. The other way to do it is just take a list. So you could drop, or I should say you could door knock people who are 60 and older, or maybe 65 to 75. There's a really good video on here by Chris Westfall. I think it's his best video, where he's got over 100,000 views, where he interviews a guy who leads with Medicare. I think he door knocks like 67 to 77 or something, and he gets in the door talking about Medicare. But then his goal is really just to sell final expense. I'm sure he sells some Medicare though, but he leverages something that he knows that's on these people's minds, which is changes in Medicare, and he uses that to his advantage to see if there's any opportunities to make any more sales when it comes to final expense. So he does more of a fact finder approach. It's more generic. The guy, I think, is pretty experienced. But the point being, you can take information that you know and leverage that to your advantage in order to figure out if there's an opportunity to sell something. So that's our 5 methods, guys. I'll I'll summarize for everybody who's just joining in now. So we got seminar marketing, giving quick educational seminars in front of an audience of likely buyers to generate leads. The second is referral generation, which really is used in conjunction with all of these other methods we mentioned to continue the process of generating very high quality leads without necessarily doing the hard work of cold calling. Number 3 is phone call, cold calling. By the way, I'll add to this, best to get a dialer that dials 2 or 3 lines at a time so that you're constantly talking to people and just really setting up the appointment based off of the fact that they get these leads all the time and you're delivering the information about it. And you don't have to, there's no qualms about it, the fact that they may not have responded to it, because you're not saying that they did. You're just following up on the card they received, and your job is to deliver the information regarding it. Number 4 is a circle of influence approach, where of course you're working people who you know, friends, family, associates, if not to just explain what you do to see if you can help better them, but also to generate referrals from them. This gives you practice. This will make you sales, and is especially effective when you got to get out there and develop a capital base that you can go into direct mail effectively. And then number 5 is the straight door-to-door canvassing. Again, whether you just walk down the street and call works just fine. It's just a numbers game after all, or whether you work a specific list in a specific age group and leverage things like Medicare to help you get more appointments. That is it. They all work. The important thing is just to pick one that you think is more prone to what you appreciate and what you like and what you'll actually do and you can tolerate, and just leverage these to its maximal effects. They all work some of the time if you'll just work most of the time. My name is David Duford at Final Expense Agent Mentor. You can check out my website at feagentmentor.com. My job is to help agents like you succeed in selling final expense insurance. If you'd like to learn more about my organization and possibly join, go to feagentmentor.com/contact. Send me a message. I'll be happy to give you an overview about how my program works. Also, if you like this video, please thumbs it up. Also, make a comment below if you have any other free lead sources that you'd like or any questions that you have about anything at all. Again, Dave Duford at Final Expense Agent Mentor. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. Take care.